Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome again to another commentary by Moletrap and Diggity and Cholera. And Cholera is about to fall asleep, so I'm gonna pass it off to him to wake him up pretty quickly here. But this is the third game between Fantasy and Mind, and it's been a pretty exciting set so far. So hopefully we'll see yet another exciting match on Medusa, which is kind of a map which can lead to some interesting games. I mean, we saw Mind get out of his grouping by doing a pretty crazy cheese. I believe it was Mind, right, that did a cheese against Midas on this map?
That's right. Yep, it was. We've seen certainly a lot of creative play on Medusa. I was going to say it is 3:34 a.m. right now, so a lot of viewers always are like, oh, well, when are these games coming out? When are those games coming out? Well, part of the reason why we're doing it so late is because there's BlizzCon this weekend that Diggity has to attend. There's just tons of games out there for all of us to cast, so have some patience. We will provide you the best of StarCraft games. Usually they'll come, unless there's some crazy thing where all four of us are just, I don't know, in ire for a conference or something, and I'm busy on Shakura's or... Alright, about to fall asleep here. Anyway, someone give me the colors again. We're actually, Diggity, why don't you tell us all which color is which player?
Intermind red, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock position. Fantasy, 3 o'clock, purple Terran. If you guys missed last match and you're one of those people that only watches the last match, why? The last match was fantastic. Really, go watch it. You'll really enjoy it. This is going to be on Medusa. Mine showing a really creative build, going for early gas and doing a combination SCV Marine Tank Wraith push for a contain, which can be so important on Return of the King, and it was beautiful. It was very creative. It was very strong. I wasn't sure if it was going to work because he did give Fantasy an economic advantage for a time. I thought that might be enough to cap and kind of push over, especially if Fantasy had gone dropship. But instead he went straight Goliath, and the contain was beautiful and successful. And even so, even if he went dropship, it would have been hard to get a dropship out over that Wraith. So anyway, this is going to be on Medusa. And it's do or die for both players. This is a best of 3. Both players are tied 1-1, and we'll see what mine can get done. And it looks like that SCV going. I'm not sure what it was doing up on the back ramp. Maybe just checking for cheese there. Kind of missed it. I'm kind of tired too. It's been a long week. That guy looks exactly like mine. What's he doing in the crowd? Whoa. Anyway, and it looks like we're seeing a 14 Nexus here. Wow, a 14 Nexus from both players. Wow. So probably a longer economic game on this one, but both players going for the crazy build. I'm going to call it the Skew build because that's what Skew does. That's what he lives and dies by. But dual fast expansions.
Yeah, by the way, they're not planning down Nexuses. I hate to break it to you. They're planning down command centers, but that is...
Did I say Nexus?
You said 14
Yeah, both
wow.
Protosses.
It's okay.
14 Protoss.
It's late at night. Come on, man.
That's the weirdest sound I've ever made in a commentary.
It's
only like 12:30, but I've had such a long week. I know.
They just
anyway, by the way,
sorry.
Anyway, speaking of which, this week has been specifically long because of some of the charity tournament setup. You go to my account, and I think it's the second to last video I've posted. The Endurance is going, so charity tournament. Go donate money to childsplaycharity.org and participate because it's going to be fun. That's the goal. Anyway, sorry, continue with the match. I've said my piece.
So it was pretty silly to see both of them go for a quick command center. Usually it's a build that you do to try and... You try and catch your opponent off guard by going for a command center and then quickly getting up some defenses really, really quick before they can really take advantage of the fact that you don't have any units or buildings. But since they've both done it, they've both kind of matched each other. So they basically almost from the beginning turned it into a sort of a longer macro match. Mind doing some nice little harassment here with this SCV. It looks like he might... No, for a second it looked like he was going to actually take out Fantasy's SCV. But he's going to run instead, run and hide. And I don't think that that Fantasy knows that Mind has also done a 14cc, so he's putting up a bunker in preparation for some kind of a push. Whereas Fantasy on the other hand, Mind on the other hand knows exactly what Fantasy's doing, and so he's going to actually just plant down factories. He knows that he doesn't have to defend against an early push because Fantasy also went 14cc, so Mind's just going to gear up and go straight into some tech, get some attack forces out and just try and bear down on Fantasy, put the pressure on, just like he did last game.
Yeah, it looks like Mind, it's going to be a little bit faster with getting both of his factories up. I would love to see a game where two players both go for proxy buildings in the middle of the map, like at the same time. Like 4 barracks are constructed in the middle of the map in a turn versus turn, or like 4 gateways in the middle of the map. I have never seen that. I've never seen a dual 5-pool, for example. I mean, 5-pool is pretty weak in Zerg versus Zerg actually, but never seen that before. Where like maybe a turn goes for barracks supply depot, and the Protoss goes for like proxy 2-gate. That would just be pretty hot to see. I've not seen that yet, but
I actually
it's sort of like that though.
I casted a game a while back of Boxer versus Stork, where Stork went proxy gate,
that was.
and Boxer went proxy barracks, I believe, and so that was pretty entertaining. Where both of them were like, "Oh crap, the other guy cheesed too. What the heck?"
Yeah. It doesn't happen that often, but if you consider the probability of cheese happening, which is quite often, like maybe 1 in 3 games or 1 in 4 games, it should happen, once in a while. We should have dual cheese. I almost consider 14cc a form of, well, not really, cheese is not really the word, but it's an audacious opening. It's a risky opening. Because you are facing lots of danger, but both players have gone for the same risky opening, and so anyway, back to the game. Both players actually, interesting enough, both getting an armory and academy just in case the other is going for those fast cloak rates, because both are expecting 2-port rates, but instead both have actually gone for 2 factories. So complete mirror build right now for both players, and looks like complete mirror build. Still same number of Marines, same number of tanks. Of course, we all love to say it, but here they're gonna go. Neither has siege mode up. I think it might be even a race to see who has siege mode first, and who can get that siege out. And it looks like Mind wins the race of the siege mode.
Mind wins the race. It's kind of interesting because one of the features, I will say, I wanted to say not flaws or artifacts or something like that. But as you can see, a lot of Medusa's just not buildable. So Siege, you can't get any sort of building down in the middle of the map with all those cracks around. So, and it's wide open out here, so you can't really make it contain. So that's why right there you see Fantasy trying to take the northern position. Mind is trying to make a push. He's trying to make a run for that secondary so he can try to pin him into that gap. But this map just isn't very lent to contains. This is what it's lent to: gigantic open field battles. It looks like one tank getting taken out of Fantasy's. Marines able to do additional damage. I think Mind's going to lose this battle simply with reinforcements. Shorter reinforcement point. This is going to come down. This map, TVT, I just realizing this as I'm speaking, is going to come down to a lot of siege unsiege micromanagement. Pushing your troops exactly at the right moment. Mind once again going to battle. I'm a little worried about this attack right here. I think it's a little bit ill-advised. Larger tank force pushing in against these 2 tanks. He has to know that there's a large tank force out there. I guess he's just trying to create delay so he doesn't get contained, but it just might be too late. I think that Fantasy might actually be getting the upper hand here. No, he's going to open up that map artifact to the south to take a backside ramp, but that's the additional liability. I almost forgot about that. That's the other liability on that map, is you can get a lot of splash damage on those temples. In fact, there you go,
Wow.
taken down almost immediately. Wow, that was a lot faster than I thought it would be. That was extremely fast. Isn't there that there's 5 or...
There are 10 temples with 1,500 health each. So usually takes...
So there you go.
Hey, sorry.
Splash for the win. And anyway, Mind blocking off one of his own expansions there with the supply depot, interestingly enough. But yeah, it looks like... or I'm sorry, that was Fantasy. Interestingly, but I still feel like Fantasy has the upper hand. He's starting to push up. He's got Mind on the back foot, and he's essentially established position where Mind needs to go forward, and he's going to be essentially the proverbial uphill. He's going to be going into the dark, into tanks that are already in siege position.
It's interesting. I think maybe Cholera can comment on this as well, but it almost seemed like that first battle was like naval warfare, because you saw how Fantasy, he saw that Mind had set up his tanks in a line and moved his own tanks around to kind of do what's in naval battle called crossing the T, where you set up
crossing the T.
Yeah, and attack from the top of the line instead of the side of the line and get better angle and stuff like that. And I don't know, this kind of huge open space with literally nothing around kind of lends to that sort of thing. Also, I noticed that Fantasy sent in his Marines, and the Marines were able to take some vital tank hits and basically keep some of the damage from going off on his tanks. I think that's what won him the battle, and Fantasy just doing a really good job of keeping the pressure up and keeping basically keeping it moving in. And he's trading tanks, but he's keeping that military advantage and almost getting it contained back on mind here. Slowly, pulling his grip farther in on Mind's kind of main base here, moving it a little bit more and more, and almost like building a noose of tanks around his region of the map, closing in a little bit slowly and slowly. Both players taking their expansions now. Mind does have an expansion up a little bit earlier. He's going to need it if he's going to be able to catch up with Fantasy militarily.
Yeah, I mean, mine has gotten it up a little bit earlier, and I think that was a great analogy, by the way. Crossing the T is in naval warfare. You want your... well, back in the days when all you had were big battleships, you wanted all your battleships in a line so that the other side would have their battleships enter range in a column, and so the front of their column would get hit by all of your fire, where they'd only be able to fire back with one ship. Anyway, so in the big open sea that is Medusa, I guess tank warfare is sort of like that, and just shows you how StarCraft applies to everything in daily life, because this is what I think about all day too. It's like I'm like driving around, everything. I'm like, yeah, like I got into this fender bender, or anyway, I'll tell you guys later. But looks like Fantasy, like you said, closing the noose onto Mind, and really not looking good. And Fantasy's going to discover that Mind has expanded here on the left side. And really, I mean, this shows to me two different styles of play. I think Mind is definitely better at the methodical gameplay or at the opening cheese. Actually, Mind is either good at cheesing, like getting a vulture drop or all-in Marines, or he's good at methodical, like grinding play, like in the last game. Whereas Fantasy seems to be lighter on his feet. Somehow with the same exact builds, he ended up far ahead in the middle of the map. And you have to remember, they came in with same number of tanks, same number of Marines. It just came down to all micro, and Fantasy seems to just a little bit smarter on his feet.
I'm trying to remember if that was same number. Actually, you're going back half topic, and I'll try to remain pseudo on topic at the same time. You're mentioning, it applies to everyday life. It's actually funny. I played this game with friends around here as we talk about general historical battles and how they apply to StarCraft. So this, for example, would be kind of like Japan versus the U.S. in the Pacific Front, and then draw all the analogies that we possibly can. Resources slowly getting starved off and pinned in. Japan being mined in this case, which is somewhat insulting to say to a Korean.
It even works.
I'm going to drop that entire topic.
It even works geographically. But the map is set up.
Yeah. Anyway, but let's focus on
nukes.
Like not
is
the political history and stuff. Will it end with nukes? Will it?
Oh. Yeah.
I apologize to any Koreans for that, because I know anyway that it's a touchy subject in that regard. But yeah, basically the idea of kind of this resource starvation. Fantasy controls the larger portion of the map in this section, while Mind getting starved specifically for gas. So in this case, in theory, precious oil. Can't keep his army running. Needed to go, and again, both players needed to rush out early and quickly and establish lines. Mind went a little too early and got caught a little out of position. Now he has to defend. He's just completely on the defense. It's a defensive battle from this stage on. And to break out, I'm not sure what he can do. Maybe he can get some drop ships and do something clever like a backside drop. I don't know if he has the resources to invest though and maintain a contain, or an outward contain, I should say. But honestly, I think that's what he's got to sneak something like that to reestablish himself in this game.
Well, yeah,
I'm going to jump in real quick. Sorry, I was going to say, back to the Japan and U.S. analogy, maybe Mind will decide to build a giant battleship called the Yamato, which is what the Japanese did, and get battle cruisers. Yeah, seriously, the Yamato actually sucked. Got killed by all in rates, basically. Think about it. It's like the Yamato was detected kind of moving out of the port. It's sort of a suicidal mission to stop the Americans.
Sorry, call it.
Yeah. All right. Well, it was to try to stop the Americans from landing on Okinawa, and it was the biggest battleship ever created. Blah blah blah. But it got intercepted by like 100 airplanes. because they had broken the Japanese codes entirely by that time in 1945, and it really never got into firing range of any ships before it was just completely sunk by all airplanes. Anyway, history lesson aside.
Or ComSat, you could say breaking the codes. A good ComSat was going off.
ComSat of the battlecruiser and sent dozens of raids.
In any
So
case,
Fantasy, getting to the game, looks like Fantasy has anticipated these drops. Really, I think mine should have gone the. I know it's not as effective. He really needs to deny those expansions, but I think he might have gathered up 2, maybe 3 dropships and gone for an end around on the factories. Tried to get lucky that side. Try to draw Fantasy's armies back. Although I don't know if he had he could even get a large enough force to do anything on that side of the map at this stage, because Fantasy obviously has the macro just absolutely rocking. But mine doing pretty well for what he's got. I still don't see it happening because it looks like Fantasy also has dropships up of his own and is continuing with that contain and establishing bases of his own. Yeah, mine is just getting boxed out here.
Or boxed in, I guess, a little bit. Well, he's kind of getting boxed out. He's getting outboxed.
Either way,
outboxed
boxer.
Fantasy, he almost overextended himself there for a minute, and you could see that because he was having to cover so large of an area. Mind had to cover a relatively small area and had the geography in his favor in game 2. But Fantasy having to cover a lot larger area, and so Mind is able to take smaller. He's able to take some of his forces and go in and hit 2 tanks like this with just a slight amount of forces more and kind of push back the corners here. So you can see now. If you look at Fantasy's the perimeter that he has to kind of control in order to contain Mind, it stretches all the way across the map at this point. It's getting pretty ridiculous, and it almost worked if you'd been able to box in that 9 o'clock expansion. That would have been it, but Mind has been able to move out slowly and push this contain all the way up into the top left corner of the map now to make this a contention point as well. This is absolutely ridiculous that the way that their bases are set up, the main battle should be in the bottom right section of the map, and here the main battle is at the top left section of the map instead. It's kind of crazy how that has ended up. So pretty standard play though as far as dropships and Goliaths and tanks and what have you. Fantasy consistently winning these battles though, and even though he's losing some ground, I think he's winning the war at this point.
Yeah, really, I think that's a great point. He's definitely winning the war here. Plus 2 upgrades, by the way, up for, I believe that was Mind. They did click it briefly, and looks like Mind just continuing to try to get these drops, and he needs to be able to break into the north, though, or else he will get outflanked. A little bit like a race to the sea in the summer of 1914, where the Germans and the Allies both try to race towards the sea, and they both got there at the same time.
This shall ever be known as the commentary of historical references.
Yes.
Let it go down in the annals of history as such.
That's what you get when you get 3 history majors, 3 history buffs, and it's really late. And sleepy commentary, I guess. It's not actually bad. I've actually enjoyed his commentary, especially in the long time versus turn. I think it's most similar to history. That you can actually get human history, not like, oh, I'm gonna have a bunch of giant elephants attack you, and you got like, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry. Actually, I wanted to say ZVZ. You could, compare it to like Mongols versus China, like speed upgrade advantage for the Mongols. Maybe vultures. I don't know. Anyway.
On the top left, and in the meantime, Fantasy has said, okay, well, if you're gonna try and take top left, I'm just going to go in and hit your main, and beautiful, beautiful counter drop by Fantasy. Jesus, that counter drop may have sealed the game for Fantasy because he's now clinched that top base.
Oh, look what he's doing! Look what he's doing!
Oh my gosh, a line of turrets! Mind turret
revenge.
Contained him in game 2, and now he's getting a revenge containment of turrets here. And by doing that counter drop, he's eliminated all of Mind's forces in the top left-hand corner, and I think he's clinched his containment. Mind trying to move out in the middle. It's not happening, though. Fantasy bringing in some of his forces from the top to recontain in the middle. Plus, he's shelling... I don't know if he's still shelling Mind's main base, but things just looking worse and worse for Mind.
Yeah, if you look at the resources, mine has a lot of minerals, but just not enough gas. 3,000 minerals for mine, 300 gas though, and he just needs another gas to be able to have any chance of coming back in this game. I was almost going to say on a map like this, you could see a fast switch to battlecruisers, but it would require more of a stalemate, honestly, because mine doesn't have the ability to, like, had the both of the players met at the top, sort of raced to the sea, and built up tons of turrets everywhere, then, well, I guess not really, it wasn't really possible, but anyway, that is the case where battlecruisers are used, in case you guys were wondering, and now Fantasy looks like he's going to push his tanks all the way down into the natural expansion of mines, and mine I think has to GG at this point. Yeah, he has to GG. Goliath's all over his natural expansion, well fought by Fantasy, I have to say. Coming back from a tough defeat in Game 2, I thought he was going to be done for, you know, being a young kid. He's like 17 or 16, and having to, you know, come back from a tough defeat, still managed to show that, you know, he is very on top of his game. And it looks like he will advance, and he is a Royal Roader, by the way, Royal Roader, which means if he wins the OSL, this will be, well, he'll win on the first time he's ever been in it.
Yeah, and yeah, this is mine. It's game over. There's GG. Was waiting for it, and so excellent play from both players, but Fantasy just got that early advantage, got that, and just taking, I think one of the keys to that game, and it was the shifting point, was taking down all those temples, because their mind was pinned to defending himself, pinned to defending a key point, and he really couldn't put any counter pressure up, and as a result, Fantasy was just able to establish a line from that stage. I don't feel like mine could have really done any sort of push forward without getting flanked and having to worry about something going up his ramp or anything like that. And he was going up into a majority of a contain anyway. And then yeah, again the race to the sea, Fantasy just controlling it from that stage on. So yeah, early micro really, as you can see, just little things in the early game leading to big things in the late game. Early micro for Fantasy ends up giving him the game against Mind here, and both very excellent Terran players. And Fantasy looks pretty good, at least TVT here. We'll see how he does just down the line here.
By the way, do you guys know what he was throwing there? Both players who've managed to win so far have been throwing little, like, diplomas out. Any idea?
History
copies
degrees.
Of the Treaty of Versailles, I believe, is what they were talking about.
Yeah.
The
All
race
right.
to the sea, though, I just had to say that was a really good analogy, because that was exactly, even, again, geographically, the way that it was working. If you looked at a map of Europe, that was kind of the same thing that exactly happened. Kind of a northerly with a slight westerly angle of the race to the sea.
Well, you know, if Germany had won the race to the sea, if it hadn't been for the quick-firing British, some of the battles there, the Germans were like, do they have machine guns? And it was no, actually it was just the fast training of the British on their infield. Anyway, I'm going to really specific details, but there's a couple counterfactuals about how Europe would look if Germany had won. Germany came close in 1914 with the race to the sea. They were almost there. They almost had a flank, and they would have been able to exploit it by taking over northern France and then having sort of an L-shaped angle to attack the rest of France. But instead, the British Expeditionary Force managed to hold off right at the sea there, and by September 1914, it was a pretty fast month, trench warfare set in, and that was it. That was it for mobility for 4 years. But in this case, it shows what would happen if Fantasy was the Germans, kind of, and he won. And he won Paris like a day later.
Well, I guess.
Wow, I have nothing more to
assuming
comment on this. This has been.
Assuming that it wouldn't have settled.
I'm proud to be a
into-
part of this commentary.
It wouldn't have settled into trench warfare, because then, I mean, in one sense, mine would have had less trench to cover, and he might have been able to defend a little better if, I don't know.
All right, okay, everybody out there who is listening to this, go ahead and create your own. Hold on. Everybody, create your own YouTube videos and create a posted response to this, talking about historical battles that you think are analogous to StarCraft. So, yeah, and you can take any war or any battle or anything you like and just talk about how it's comparative to StarCraft. I think my favorite, though, is the most recent one. I was talking with my friend here, who Moltrap knows, who I won't go into, but we were talking about the Mongols versus the Chinese. Would that best be represented with speed Zerglings versus standard Zerglings, or vultures, since they are they have the archery going on with the horseback? Would that then be speed vultures versus standard Zerglings? And that was kind of the debate. But anyway, yeah, post responses, and we'll have our first post response YouTube thingamajigger, because I think this is a topic we can capitalize on for entertainment and shenanigans.
All right, since you're the one saying that,
I was gonna say,
you're gonna be the one that has to go in and approve all the video responses.
Yeah, that's fine. It's not like I'm not going to be doing that anyway.
one guy. All right, this is my last history story, or this is actually a story because this is why I spend my time doing. By the way, guys, when I'm not doing commentaries, a fan of mine sent me this list. He was like, "Cholera, a quiz for you. Answer as soon as possible." And he sent me literally 25 ancient civilizations, and he said, "Say which race they are based on their armies: Terran, Protoss, Berserk, and Justify." And I spent the next hour and a half off the top of my head being like, the Assyrians reminded me of the Zerg, of the Terrans, because they had their fast-moving chariots that they
Oh yeah, they're
pioneered.
totally
The Romans
Terran
reminded
siege
me
tech.
of,
Yeah, you
I
got
don't know.
the rake around
I
the
think I
back.
said the Protoss. I think Protoss.
Uh-oh. I think you guys just cut out. My internet may have hiccuped, and I'm the one recording, so I guess that's it for this commentary. Sorry, everybody, but I'll talk to you later. Bye.